Hello everyone. Welcome to Astrologer Climate Witness tonight. I'm going to be covering the inauguration chart for tomorrow. I have a 12 o'clock time for the chart. What we're going to be looking at is the intensity of this chart and some of the other symbolic meanings. I think that when I discuss these things, what I'm really trying to do is just present particular ideas, symbolisms, and events, thoughts, concepts for people to look into for themselves. You know, you don't always have to take someone's word for something. You take some of the information and you run with it. Do your own research, look things up. So I'm going to begin. I have a little intro here that I will read. So we're going to start. I'm going to discuss a little Pluto and Aquarius, what we're in for with this new presidency, 4-year term. What is happening? Number one, members in Congress are being threatened far more than ever before. Adam Schiff was on the news this week, and he stated that someone asked him a question about if he was worried about some of the statements that the incoming president had made in regard to people who had taken actions against him. For instance, Adam Schiff was in the congressional hearings to impeach the president. Well, when asked if Adam Schiff was worried and maybe he should accept a pardon, etc., he said, "I'm not worried about my political life." I'm not quoting exactly here, but it's pretty much what he said. "Because I did nothing wrong." He said, "I am worried about my things in my personal life because the number of threats that myself and other members of Congress have received towards myself and my families are exponentially higher than they used to be." So there's that. Elon Musk is not only calling the shots in our government, but he's writing to support the Nazi Party, ADF, in Germany. Pluto is in the first degree of Aquarius in this chart that I'm going to discuss. Now, the chart itself, I don't know if you're going to be able to see this, but what I would suggest is you run the chart for tomorrow at 12 o'clock, and you'll be able to see for yourself what I'm looking at, okay? We are coming to a time in our lives in which not only are we facing the extreme challenges of planetary overshoot, but also that of extreme political upheaval. With the new president, we are being subjected to an oligarchic rule. This is tyranny through greed and power. This is not truly understood by the people in general. Some of us may be somewhat suspect, but still, we have never been faced with this type of situation in many generations. Now, I know I've covered Pluto and Aquarius a decent amount here, but there's more coming, okay? I think it is important for people to study, research, especially through books, because, people are suspect or wary of things online. And again, I'm going to say, when you do the research, when you do study, find different sources, and then you put together from that threads that make sense. Because if you find things that contradict each other, that's going to be a red flag, correct? So you find things that match, that make sense, okay? That support each other, facts that support each other, okay? what this type of situation means that we're facing. Our lives will be forever changed. With the chart for the inauguration, it has Pluto conjunct the Sun, conjunct the midheaven. And yes, many people are going to say, oh, the part of fortune is there too. If you were looking at this chart and you didn't have to compare the realities behind it, the situation as it is in reality, you might say, oh, look, this represents a new vision, and it's got the part of fortune there, so that new vision will be put forth, and there'll be equality and a new vision for everyone where power will be dispersed. Well, that may be the case down the road, but in the beginning, I do believe that Pluto conjunct the Sun is going to be too powerful. If you think about the sign Aquarius, yes, it's visionary. It has to do with innovation and ideas. But you know, Aquarius can be very fixed with its own ideas and its own vision. Okay? Now, next, if this isn't a portend of Plutonic power, I don't know what is. Also, Uranus is in the first house, 9 degrees from the ascendant. And if for some reason the actual inauguration happens a little after, or if someone wants to use not necessarily the appointed time given for the inauguration, but the actual moment that Trump puts his hand on that Bible and accepts the presidency and swears his oath to the Constitution, we could use that time. I don't know how much longer that would be, but if you give it about, I don't know, 20, 25 minutes or so, somewhere around in there, Uranus will be on the ascendant. Okay, later than 12 o'clock. So, that says a lot. I mean, Uranus is in the first house. It's just not exactly on the ascendant. 9 degrees is pretty close, though. Generally, we would probably call that a wide conjunction. What would our lives look like after this? We're shown the symbolism of our tech oligarchies at work. Too bad that the science doesn't include climate change. The climate change science is not there. Oh, yes. Elon Musk with his electric cars, that's not climate science. I'm sorry. And it's not going to do anything to help along those lines. I hope that people have looked into the mining for lithium and other rare earth minerals that are necessary for all of the renewable so-called climate mitigating equipment that's going to be made. And if you do that, you'll see that it's not anything different than fossil fuels. And fossil fuels, again, I'm going to state, are what got us into this mess. They're horrible. When I give these descriptions about what's coming, I'm not saying that there's any solutions at this point. What I'm saying is just people have to come to terms with the situation as it is and as it's developing. Now, there can be mitigations in terms of trying to restore local ecosystems and habitats. Not so much that it's going to stop climate change, but at least in your local area, you might be able to manifest some type of mitigation to be able to help with better soils. More trees is better than less. Affecting rivers and creeks and streams, not to disrupt the ecosystems within them, but somehow in ways to mitigate flooding. Okay, raise your house up if you have the money, so that it's not a ground level or such. I mean, various things along these lines. You can do things to mitigate what's coming. But overall, in the long run, what's coming is so pervasive and so encompassing that Exactly when it gets that bad, we can't necessarily put a finger on it. But every single thing that was said to happen mid-century to late century is already happening. So, anyways, okay. Now, we have in this chart, as I said, Pluto and the Sun and the part of fortune conjunct the midheaven on the 10th house side of the midheaven. The midheaven's at 26 degrees Capricorn at 12 o'clock. Now, Mercury's in the 9th, and as I said, Uranus is in the 1st. Jupiter's on the 2nd house. So you'd think, okay, this is helpful in regards to what would you call that 2nd house in an inauguration chart? I guess the way they're going to handle our finances. Jupiter in Gemini, I mean, it all looks kind of positive in a way, right? But for who? Now we get into the nitty gritty. Mars is on the 4th house cusp, okay, at 24 degrees Capricorn. As that Mars, it's still moving backwards. As that Mars turns direct, and eventually by April 26th, I would say that whole week, it turns direct much before that, but by that point, it's at the exact opposition of the Sun and Pluto and the part of fortune in Aquarius. So what does the 4th house mean? And we all know in a mundane chart, the 10th house is our government, right? And then the Sun is our leader. Pluto is power. How will that power be used? And by whom? Okay. Mars is in Leo. That's the leader also. So maybe there's an opposition between, maybe the question really is, who's our leader? Who exactly is running the country? Isn't it obvious by this very chart that we are now in the thralls of a completely new political government? Who is ready for this? Okay, I would like to point out that there is a coming opposition from Mars to Pluto in Aquarius. The exact timing is April 26th. This will be transiting through the 4th house of this inauguration chart. The 4th house is natural resources, including minerals, mines, and agriculture. Stability. The 4th house rules a nation's general and political stability. Okay? And housing. 4th house rules a nation's housing, including public buildings and government property, federal lands. And what did Trump say he was going to do? Drill, baby, drill all over the federal lands. Education is under the 4th house, the educational institutions of the country. Mars. He's going to use that Mars in that 4th house. He's going to rip up the foundations of our land. There's many people out there that'll see this and just think of me as some liberal nutcase. Well, it's right here in front of us, folks. And that opposition to Pluto and the Sun in Aquarius, in astrology, that axis, the Aquarius-Leo axis, you've got the dispersion of power, Aquarius, and the concentration of power in Leo. But in a way, they're kind of almost flipped, but then it'll get confused, okay? I do believe. As time goes on, there could be aggression against the Pluto and the Sun in that Aquarius, or the Pluto and the Sun will end up being used by others who decide that they don't agree. And this might be the people, that Aquarian energy for equality. So if you ask me, think of the tarot card, the Wheel of Fortune. It's almost like this axis that's happening here. The government versus the fourth house, the stability of the land, is going to flip around back and forth as to who is running the show. Between, will it be Trump or the oligarchy and or the people? It's not going to be easy to determine what's happening. And by April 26th, we have a chart here. Again, with Taurus rising. So it's like the country is identifying with its values and its valuables, okay? Identifying with them. The sun is on that ascendant smack, 2 degrees. Uranus is still in the first, but at 26 degrees. And the rising sign's 4 degrees. Pluto is in the 10th again, in Aquarius, at 3 degrees. And Mars is at 3 degrees Leo, in the 4th. I think we are setting ourselves up for something extremely chaotic. Then you have, on the 7th house, the 4 degrees descendant. At 3 degrees in Scorpio, you have Lilith. So now, back to the other chart, the chart of the inauguration, Pluto rules the 7th in that house also. So one of the things I was reading about the 7th house in Scorpio is, in mundane astrology, is jealousies from your political enemies, or jealousies from partnerships, meaning in this case possibly our NATO allies. It's not a harmonious looking chart, let me put it that way, with Pluto on the descendant and Pluto at, Scorpio on the descendant and Pluto in the 10th. This is very, very concerning. So, you can determine what you think about that Mars-Pluto opposition coming to fruition on April 26th. And then, in this chart, April 26th, you've got, listen closely, the moon in Aries. Now, Aries and Libra are intercepted in this chart, in the 12th and 6th. You've got the moon in Aries, you've got Mercury in Aries, you've got Neptune in Aries, Venus in Pisces, it's not intercepted, of course, Saturn in Pisces, but also Chiron is in Aries. So you've got Chiron, the moon, Mercury, and Neptune, all in Aries. And in Pisces, before that, you've got Venus and Saturn conjunct, 27 degrees, and you've got the North Node in Pisces, conjunct them both. So there's, now, when you look up the 12th house in mundane astrology, it talks about a lot of the behind-the-scenes action, and a lot of behind-the-scenes activity. With that intercepted Aries, like identity, right? Like the identity of who the nation is. The Mars in the 4th again, the stability of the nation. With that 12th house packed like that, it doesn't look good. It really doesn't. The sun being on the ascendant, okay, the leader showing themselves, I believe you could say, or identifying with the way that things look or his presentation. He's going to be very, very concerned with the presentation of himself. Okay, now that squares, or is actually in, it's all a grand square. Okay, so it's boxed in. Everything's boxed in. The Pluto, the Sun at 6 degrees Taurus, Pluto in Aquarius, Mars in Leo, and Lilith on the 7th. So somehow, there's some way that something's going on that no one can get out of, or someone can't get out of. Will it be his marriage to the tech oligarchy that he's used to get what he wants, staying out of jail? Or, in some other way, Well, it has something to do with other countries, or both. Usually in astrology, it's not just one thing. Okay, now, Elon Musk's chart. Okay, so being the Cancer that he is, he's about security, basically, if you ask me. I mean, look at the family situation. He's got few different wives and all those children from different wives. Sorry. But, and okay, fine. But the hypocrisy about the Christianity that's circulating, there are articles about him addressing this in some ways. He just started doing this, right? What did he call it? There's a new word. Something Christianity. Oh, shoot. I should have looked that up before I came here. He had a new term for Christianity. Yeah. So, and then Mercury is rising. And Mercury rules the 12th house. So there's a lot of 12th house stuff there with his sun in there. Okay. And Venus is in the 12th in Gemini. And then, of course, we have that moon in Virgo. All that analyzing of emotions, right? And his 5th house, that house that you work through to express yourself and manifest what you're trying to be or who you're trying to be, has Jupiter and Neptune natally. So the only thing here for him that kind of manages to set up in that chart also, there's not a lot of fixed here in his chart. As a matter of fact, I don't see much of anything except the Aquarius. Mars in Aquarius at 20 and the North Node in Aquarius. And Jupiter is in a fixed. It's in Scorpio. The opposition for him between that Pluto and Mars is happening in his 7th house, not near the descendant, in the 1st house, not near the ascendant. But it is happening in his identity house and his partnership house. Not much else to say right here. I didn't read it over a lot. So then, Donald Trump's chart. I bought the book by Mary Trump, by the way, describing the psychological environment that they grew up in. So we have the 29-degree Leo rising, and that Mars at 26. And then that Pluto-Mars opposition for him is happening in his 6th and 12th house. What could we say? The 6th house being health, the 12th house being hospitals, institutions for people who need help in some way. I don't know if that's going to be the way it manifests. Or it could be the health of the nation that comes about in which, he might have to take some sort of action versus the 12th house, behind the scenes activities in his life that he doesn't want people to know about. I don't know. Something along these lines. Now, I'm just saying that inauguration chart is loaded. I don't know if anyone agrees, but it doesn't seem to me. A lot of people would look at that again and say, look at all that Aquarian energy. That Aquarian energy to them might look very positive. I don't think so. That I have a tendency, most of the time I see, in everyone's chart, and somewhat in mine, generally speaking, all I'm saying is people look at charts and almost always view the positives way too much. Okay. You have to balance it out with what you see as negatives. And the United States, when you know and understand what's going on the ground in reality, and you match it to the symbolisms of the planets, then you have a better concept of what might be going on, rather than just viewing the chart and not knowing that much about the realities on the ground. So the overall on the ground situation is not positive, not by any means. How long it will take for people to see through, see behind the curtain, the man behind the curtain for what he really is? I don't know. It's taking them a long time. And the governing of our nation won't probably be in the hands of that person that was voted in, nor his friends. Aquarius, right? I do believe that this is the beginning of things coming apart. As I've stated, around 2010-ish, when the Tea Party began, I kind of had the idea that this nation would break apart into different factions, different areas. I don't know necessarily if this will start it, but I'm going to be studying this more. But he's going to do some of the things he said. But that Mars in the 4th house, he's going to rip apart our lands like you have no idea. Oppositions can mean many different things in terms of balancing two things. Balancing power with aggression. Power and aggression. Leadership and aggression. It remains to be seen exactly what might happen with the people, what their attitude is going to be, and what they will do about it. Will people just sit back and let him do whatever? So I have a couple of things that I shared with myself here having to do with Aquarius and a few other things. I'm just going to read them a little bit. Okay. I think it was this one. This is kind of cool. It's general. It's not specific to this chart, and I only read partway through. I didn't have time to finish, but it sounds like a nice thing to put here to help people get a grasp of how to use astrology in these situations. It says, mundane astrology helps me make sense of this crazy, chaotic world. This was found on medium.com and is written by Patrice Walker. She says, yeah, I know, BS you might think, but have an open mind for 6 minutes and hear me out. Let me say up front that I am not a professional astrologer. There's a lot I don't know about chart interpretation. What I can say is that astrology has been a much beloved avocation of mine since my teen years. As a result, I believe I have a pretty good understanding of the archetypes that the astrological signs, planets, and houses represent. I also understand that astrology doesn't predict specific future events. Rather, it highlights the broader archetypical energies of the collective unconscious at play in individual and world events that are reflected in the signs, planets, houses, and planetary alignments in a chart. And I forgot that. Oh, continue in the app. Okay. Let's continue in the app because I have the app. Yeah, okay. Here we go. Wants me to update, of course. Let's see. I don't think I need to, though, because it's been saying that. I have too many pictures still on my phone. Okay, here we go. Perfect. It's right here. Okay. So, these archetypical energies, I can never say that right, the archetypal energies can manifest in multiple ways, making it difficult to predict one specific event. I view astrology as a divinatory art, like tarot or dream interpretation, that relies on the symbolic language of the collective unconscious to give meaning to what's going on in the outer world. Okay. to give meaning to what's actually going on in the outer world. So, as I mentioned, you need to know what's going on in the outer world in order to be able to really grasp the clues in the astrology. This is basically what mundane astrology does. But instead of an individual's chart, mundane astrology focuses on the birth chart of a country, and in this case, the inauguration chart. With respect to the USA's birth chart, the planet I want to focus on is Pluto. You know what they say, size doesn't matter. That's definitely the case with Pluto, at least in archetypal terms. That's because the US experienced its first Pluto return beginning in February of 2022. A planetary return is a big deal in astrology. We're all familiar with the infamous Saturn return in an individual's chart at approximately 29 and then 58 and 87, if you're lucky to live that long. A return occurs when the planet makes a full revolution around the zodiac of the individual's or country's birth chart and returns to the position it occupied when the person or country was born. It's a significant time in which the archetypal qualities of the planet and the sign it occurs in come to the forefront of our lives in dramatic ways. Some keywords describing Pluto's archetypal energies will give you an idea of what the country has been experiencing: power, sex, elimination, destruction, death, rebirth, resurrection, and transformation. Pluto was the Roman lord of the underworld. This archetype also speaks to the shadow side of the psyche, those dark energies we don't want to acknowledge and therefore repress. But the repressed energy inevitably rises up and erupts on the surface of everyday life to be acknowledged and hopefully released so the person, country, can heal, can in effect be reborn to a higher level of expression. Well, we'll see about that. The person has to become aware first. The country has to become aware first of that dark, shadowy part. Pluto was traveling through the sign of Capricorn when the Declaration of Independence was signed on July 4th, 1774, the date on which the USA was born. I don't know why she's saying 74. 76 is the Sibley chart. Anyway, therefore, the USA's Pluto return has occurred in the sign of Capricorn, which it did over the last, 2022? 20, something like that. Okay, we covered that. Capricorn symbolizes, among other things, all the structures that uphold society: the government, political, legal, religious, educational, medical, and financial institutions that undergird society and keep it functioning. Societal and what happened during the transit of Pluto through Capricorn last time, the major power in the world at the time, England, came apart, or over time lost that power. And it was the beginning was when we declared our independence. Okay, so societal customs and beliefs. Wait a minute, let's see. Yeah, societal customs and beliefs, ergo, you have to work hard for your money, that live beneath the surface of consciousness and guide our individual and collective behavior, are also in Capricorn's purview. Now put Pluto, the planet of death, destruction, power, and volcanic upheaval, into Capricorn, and you get an upheaval, death, destruction, and hopefully transformation, hopefully, in most, if not all, of these societal institutions and customs. What does that look like today? The eruption of blatant, in-your-face discrimination against BIPOC and LGBTQ and immigrant members of society as America's shadow surfaces, the eruption of all that, attempts to exert power and control over women's bodies, a breakdown of traditional gender roles and norms, the rise of authoritarianism in politics and government, the brutal death and destruction of communities ravaged by climate change, COVID-19 resulting in the death of over 100,000 in the U.S., massive deaths from gun violence, Supreme Court improprieties coming to light, and recent bank collapses. Looking at these events through the eyes of America's Pluto return in Capricorn makes it easier for me to understand why this seeming craziness is occurring now. And believe it or not, to have hope for the country's rebirth into a better future. Okay, she says, why I'm hopeful. Well, I'm not really, but we'll read what she says. Because Pluto has left the sign of Capricorn, is beginning its 20-year transit through the next sign of the zodiac, Aquarius. Some keywords I use to describe Aquarian archetypal energy include freedom, independence, collective community action, decentralization, humanitarianism, science, technology, and astrology. Now, I want to say, those things are really cool about Aquarius, but you have an opposition from the Mars in that inauguration chart opposing that. So to me, if those things are going to happen, at least while our ecosystem holds together enough, there's going to be a fight. How that fight goes down, I'm not sure. But we will see. There will be a power struggle. Mars opposed Pluto. Power struggle. Period. And while Pluto will only be in Aquarius for 3 months in 2023, so she read this back then, or she wrote this back then, before retrograding back into Capricorn until January 2024, we can already see a bit of its influence reflected in current events. There was a rise in the labor union movement, a move toward decentralization of work resulting in the rise of remote work and the gig economy, the rapid growth of automation, artificial intelligence, virtual reality, and metaverse. This is all bad. I'm sorry. You can have your opinion, but you gotta know that the amount of energy that's necessary for the metaverse and for artificial intelligence is absolutely exponential. And it's only going to grow more because they're only going to grow it, right? So look up the amount of energy that AI uses. So talk about getting rid of fossil fuels. They're never going to do that. They may add all the renewables they want, but it's only to increase our amount of energy we use, not decrease it. And what we need to do is decrease the amount of energy. And don't think that AI is going to help us get out of this mess. It's really not that smart. If it was, it would say, decrease your energy use. That's what it would say. That's the only way to do it. We cannot keep increasing our energy use. You have to rip up the planet constantly and forever in order to do that. And we can't do that anymore. You're killing the biosphere. You're killing the ecosystems that all of living life needs. Okay? So, cryptocurrency in its infancy. So it sounds like she's all pro these things, but trust me. Okay. Mass demonstrations taking place demanding more power to the people. Coalitions forming and community action taking place among marginalized citizens to demand equality and justice for all. Those are all great, but not going to happen. The move away from fossil fuels toward a greener economy. There's no such thing as a green economy, I'm sorry. As long as we have industrial civilization, we're not going to have anything sustainable or green. When Pluto takes up permanent residence in Aquarius in 2024 until 2043, I believe we'll see even more of these events unfolding in this country, growing in strength and significance as rebirth and transformation follow death and destruction. Now, the thing that I could see happening is at some point, hopefully in the not too distant future, is that, I don't want to say I hope, because when it does happen, it's going to be horrific. But if industrial civilization crashes, at least crashes a few levels down, quite a few levels down, we will use less energy and we will do less destruction. So therefore, we'll stop adding so much CO2. Now, that's not going to do anything for the CO2 that's up there. It's still there. It's not going anywhere for hundreds or thousands of years. But if something happens to decrease our energy use drastically, it might help so that in the long run, a few decades down the road, the warming that could have been if we keep going with industrial civilization will not necessarily happen. Maybe instead of going all the way to 3 to 4 degrees C or even higher, because some people talk about going to 6 or 10 degrees C, forget that. We won't even be here after 4. Forget it. Maybe that won't happen. What will happen first? Collapse of industrial civilization or uh, to decrease emissions, or that we'll just destroy ourselves because we keep increasing industrial civilization, and then we'll go down. And by the time, if we keep using industrial civilization, keep trying to grow it for another 30 years or more, that's just horrific. I don't think we can do 30 years. I'm not just basing this on my head. I've been reading multiple scientific information that shows that we probably can't really do that. Can you see yourself in the future, if there's no more bees or other pollinators, that one of your jobs is to go into the city that's, providing all the necessities for certain people, and one of your jobs is to pollinate all the food? You probably wouldn't even get hardly any of that food. It would go to the oligarchies at the top. It would go to the royalty at the top. I'm serious. I'm not kidding. Like, they're not going to, because there won't be that much food. There's only going to be a certain amount. How many flowers or vegetables and fruits do you think humans could pollinate and make it work? Bees know what they're doing. Humans can do that, but can you do it on a mass scale? Mass scale is the term we need to look at here. Okay. And it looks like Robert Reich agrees with me. Progressive is another key word that describes archetypical Aquarian energy. Look where progress has gotten us. It's destroyed our world. Please, people. I like the way she describes mundane astrology and how she uses it to frame. But see, that's what I'm getting at. If you only look at the goodies in a sign or a planet, you're missing the point. It's a coin. There's two sides. And depending on the people using the energy, government, right, determines what will happen and what won't happen. Unless there's a massive revolution, and I mean a real revolution, the positives are not going to happen. And the only outcome of that revolution would be to absolutely massively decrease our effect on the planet by decreasing industrial civilization. Now, then you've got, when you do that, what are other countries doing? If they see us notching down drastically, are they going to try to take advantage of that? In our world, probably. So see the conundrum? Like, would Russia take advantage? Or would some of those countries go, you know what, if the United States is doing that, and we all know that we're killing the biosphere, maybe we should do it too. Now, that's being really Pollyannish, because I don't think they would do that. Which country is going to be having the longest availability of their breadbasket growing? I mean, those things are going to go downhill. You've got Ukraine, which is being destroyed, basically. It's part of the breadbasket of the world. The middle section of the United States, and then you got Northern California. I mean, really, people, do you really think that all the positives are going to come out of this? Really do your research on the science of what's going on. They've been saying for over 10 years now, probably longer, that we're not going to have any more topsoil in 60 years. The topsoil around the world is so diminished. We used to have, what did I read? 6 feet or more. No, maybe it was 20 feet. It was a lot of topsoil in the United States when we first came here. You know what we have now? On average? 6 inches. Did I cover that last time? Seriously, I'm not kidding. What we do to grow food is produce massive amounts of fertilizer using natural gas, because we have to get the nitrogen. How does it work now? There's ammonia, or we have to make ammonia. It's ammonia and nitrogen, and we have to put that in fertilizer, and that is how we get our food. And if it wasn't for that, we would not get the food that we need. Most of our soil has washed down the rivers. Some of our areas have actually been so contaminated with other situations that it's not good. There was another article that I have here having to do with from a British medical journal. I posted that. Let me just read. Talking about cancer. Let me see. Find this. I'm only going to read a little bit. I took screenshots at the beginning of it. Oh. Yesterday, today. I did that today. I'll find them. Where is it? That's bizarre. Anyway, it had to do with the chemicals in building materials and everyday materials. It wasn't the chemicals in our food. Everybody covers that a lot. But it's the materials that we use to build with, to function and do things in our environment. And there's over, like, what do they say, 600 or 800? And like only 20% have ever been tested for toxicity. And you want to know where cancer comes from. You want to know where childhood cancer comes from. We're surrounded by complete destructive chemicals every day, all day, for all of our lives. And don't even get me started on radiation. This all sounds like somebody who is against vaccines. Well, I'm not. I take vaccines. It's such a conundrum to say that industrial civilization is bad. Because 99% of people are not going to believe that. Just because humans needed to do this stuff doesn't mean it was good. It's like this out of this world thought process, right? It doesn't mean we can even fix it, because if you get out of industrial civilization, like I've covered many times, the first problem is going to be the nuclear power plants. If we could do this massive worldwide program to decommission them, make them safe. Of course, then you've got all the stored waste product, But if you could decommission them, that's a start. I would have a little bit of hope, a teeny little bit, if we could do that. But we'd have to shut down much of our industrial processes first, so that we're not continuing to use the atmosphere as a sewer, as I just read somebody said the other day, because that's what we're doing. Anyway, there was some other things here that I saw that I wrote, or that I took screenshots of, but I wanted to cover. Where'd that go? I just noticed I put this in here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, this is what I was talking about, that April 26th chart. The 12th house in mundane astrology signifies a strong emphasis on hidden agendas, behind-the-scenes activity, secret dealings, and a potential for societal issues related to a large-scale subconscious pattern, like widespread anxieties, collective fears, or repressed emotions within the population that might not be readily apparent. Key interpretations of a planetary stellium in the 12th. Unseen forces at play. The 12th house represents the unknown, so a concentration of planets here could indicate major societal trends or events that are not fully understood or acknowledged by the public. This placement can suggest a collective emotional undercurrent, potentially manifesting as widespread anxieties, depression, or societal unrest. In a mundane chart, the 12th house can also signify issues with foreign relations, particularly in regarding, and that was the end of the screen. Well, let me see one. Did I do another one? Yeah, I did. This hidden power structures. The placement might point towards powerful groups or individuals operating behind the scenes, influencing events without public knowledge. A heavy 12th house could indicate a societal need for deep self-reflection, regret for your vote is one thing, okay? And addressing subconscious issues to foster collective progress. Important considerations when interpreting this placement. The specific planets involved. Each planet brings its unique energy to the 12th house, further defining the nature of the hidden forces at play. Aspects to other planets. The aspects formed by planets in the 12th house to other planets in the chart can reveal how these hidden influences manifest and interact with other societal factors. Okay, the zodiac sign occupying the 12th house can add further insight into the characteristics of the hidden dynamics. I think with that intercepted Aries, you're going to have, who the hell are we anymore? This is one of the major things that I see. And the planets involved, let me go back. Okay, so what does the moon rule? The moon rules the 4th house. Okay, so because we have that interception. So the ruler of the 4th is in the 12th of that chart, the April 26th chart. And then you've got also Neptune just moved into Aries. Talk about clouding identity. Or worshiping an identity. Okay. So there's that. See how things can, I know, for people who don't study astrology, that seems like wishy-washy, right? But you just got to look on the ground and see how things are unfolding. Okay. Now, Mercury. Mercury rules the 2nd house, okay, and the 6th house. So, and in astrology, like I read that the last time or the time before, the 6th house has to do with the country's business or the nation's business, like all the laws and, well, the laws, that's the 9th house, but the mechanizations that go on to make the country work, the functioning, the obligations we have, just like humans. I mean, just like the rest, individually, all the obligations you have to the people you care about and to become a better person, right? Well, that's the 6th house. So with Mercury in the 12th, it's like, well, we're kind of confused about what we need to do, right? And then you've got that Libra intercepted, and the ruler of it is in Pisces in the 12th. Again, a little bit cloudy there, you know, about what to do, what are we doing? Now, the sun rising on the ascendant in this April 26th chart does square Mars still, does square Pluto, and it is squaring that Lilith. So talk about opposing and conflicting management, right? Like who's running the show, right? And I think the leader that's supposed to be the leader, he's going to be out there showing off that ascendant, right? Sun on the ascendant, to make sure that he's seen as the leader. But there's going to be a lot of behind the scenes stuff going on. Just to probably, if you want to think of the king, to depose the king. I think that's the word using. And now I'm going to talk about something else here. It's so weird that I started watching The Tudors, the series on Paramount. I usually watch anything like that while I'm exercising on the treadmill or on the bike or doing other things, my stretches and everything, or cleaning, you know. I set my computer up and I move it around as I need, because I can't just sit and watch stuff like that. I just can't sit and watch something unless I'm eating. But I'm watching that series. I'm on season 3. Oh my God. Talk about um, a leader, Henry VIII, that was, you know, oh my God, impulsive, doing things for his own interest and his own instinctual needs. Look at the women he killed and other people. And he was part of that Reformation. Is there going to be a religious aspect of what's going on in this uh, administration? Are they going to do something with religion? I'm really worried about that. I really am. Can you imagine? I mean, they say they're going to do this and that, and some of the things they say they're going to do, like putting religion back in schools, that's bad enough. But what if it's worse even than that? All right, I think that's enough for this time. Um, just look into these things, see what you think. You can come back, you can talk to me, argue with me if you want. But if you're not looking at both sides of the coin, then you're not paying attention. I don't see a lot of positives coming out of this. Oh, Elon will come out, with all these. Maybe he'll get more money towards his cars, or because of, playing with the laws or the tax system. Ooh, sorry. And but what kind of alliances are they going to make? I mean, these people have their hands in all kinds of pies all around the world. Donald Trump kept saying he was going to make us independent in this and independent in that, but these guys don't want that. They don't care about that. They make money all over the world, and so did Donald. I mean, when he says he's going to make America great again by bringing everything home, he doesn't care about that. His daughter had businesses in China when he was in his first term. He didn't do anything about that. He didn't care. I mean, you'll see. Um, the wheel is turning, and somebody is going to find out that when you're up, you're up. But that means you got to come down. Okay? All right. Everybody, thank you for visiting. And I'm not watching tomorrow, the 20th. I'll just wait, see what happens after that. Bye.